My name is David Mattern. I'm one of the horticulturists here at Chanticleer Garden. I'm responsible for the Chanticleer House and Terraces as well as the vegetable garden. So this year at Chanticleer it's a little bit different, as it's different for everybody. So around the Chanticleer House and Terraces, where I typically do seasonal displays of tropicals, perennials, and annuals, this year I'm growing vegetables in those spaces. I'm doing them with the same sort of ornamentation, voluptuousness that I do with my seasonal displays, so it's still very ornamental, but this year I'm growing vegetables. All of this is with the intent of donating all of this produce to local food banks in the area. So I'm going to take you around the terraces here, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the vegetables that I'd like to grow in containers and how I'm doing it here on the terraces. So this is the overlook, and you can see this is my popcorn here that I'm growing this season. So here we are on the Chanticleer Terraces, and so you can see all my containers. I have a variety of things going on here. So first and foremost, when we're talking about growing things in containers, be it vegetables or annuals, keep in mind containers are about having fun. You can have different sizes of containers, you can have different combinations of plants in containers, you can have them singly. You know, container gardening is really more about what you enjoy doing and how you want to do it, so make it fun for yourself. So you can see I have different vegetables and different sized things. Now when we're talking about growing vegetables specifically in containers, you could really do a variety of different things. And there's a lot of cultivars of vegetables that have been cultured specifically for container culture. So there's a lot of options out there for what you can choose. So I have a variety of different things, different pot sizes. So a variety of different herbs. These are my tomatoes. I'll explain these in a bit. Parsley, I have carrots. This one is kind of fun. This is a type of popcorn. So this is a cultivar called Tom Thumb, and this is an example of a cultivar that was developed specifically for container culture. So Tom Thumb was made to be a dwarf variety, still produce little popcorn cobs, but be a container culture plant. So there's a lot of options out there. So these are some of my tomato arches that I'm growing on the terrace. So this tomato cultivar is Super Sweet 100. So it's a cherry type tomato that has long panicles, about 18 inches long, of red cherry tomatoes. And so it's an indeterminate variety, so that means it just kind of grows and keeps growing. So I need to make sure I give it a trellis that can support the plant and continue its growth. So I have them growing around these arches here, and the cherry tomatoes are going to be kind of hanging down. So I have them in a container that has a generous space amount because they're going to turn into large plants, so I need to account for that. So by having that large container and growing them around, I can have enough water space and nutrient space for these plants to grow and develop. And then around the base of the plant, just to add to it, I'm adding herbs. So herbs don't really take up that much space. They're a nice counterpart to the tomatoes, and they come in a variety of different colors and textures. So I can play around with that around the base of the container as well. Usually the way you use herbs is just like small tidbits, snippets that you use in the kitchen anyway. So just having a variety at the base works with having the large tomatoes in the containers. So just another variety of crops that I'm growing on the terraces here. These are winter squashes. I have a couple different cultivars of them. I think they're really fun plants to grow, as long as you account for the amount of space that they're going to occupy. Winter squashes can be quite big plants and they can kind of sprawl. I'm growing them up string lines, but I'm also just kind of letting them trail around. One benefit to growing plants like this in a container is that a lot of winter squashes can be very susceptible to a lot of mildew and foliar leaf diseases. By having them in a container, I have better airflow. I have around the whole plant, and then also the flowers, which are these sort of golden yellow trumpets that are in bloom that you'll see in the mornings. By having the flowers sort of up and presented in containers, you can really see that more, so it's a little bit more aesthetic. When the fruits start developing, they're not in touch with soil either, so I can potentially alleviate some more pest and disease issues that way. Some other things that I'm growing around on the terrace, playing around with, various containers of basil. These are peanuts that I'm doing, which are quite fun. If you ever look at the way that they flower and fruit, you can see that up close. Sweet potatoes in hanging baskets, they're just starting to trail for me. So it's fun to have a variety of different things and play around and see what works for you. As I said, there's a lot of cultivars that are selected for container culture. So really the possibilities can be kind of endless. Some things to point out, keep in mind soil, container soil that you're using. You want something very freely drained, that's not going to, something that's going to freely drain, but also something that's going to hold adequate water, but then also hold adequate nutrients. With a container mix, you really want to make sure that you have enough nutrition in your soil. So usually amending your soil with a liquid fertilizer or whatever your fertilizer of choice can be beneficial throughout the growing lifespan of the plant itself. I usually water about once a day, every day, just to make sure that my plants stay watered. Larger containers will stay adequately moist for longer periods of time, especially in the hot sun, because there's more space to occupy for water holding capacity. Smaller containers, you tend to have to water a little bit more often because that's a limited root space. Besides that, again, the possibilities are endless, so kind of have some fun with it. And if you see me at Chanticleer when you come visit, let's talk about veggies in containers.